My name is Deborah Cleveland, and I'm with AA Learning Online. I've been there since 2012. Oh my goodness, it's been a little while. But the exciting thing is we've been growing what we can help schools with in regards to professional learning over the past few years. And I'm very excited today because I have been working with Kelsey from CAM School District on some really great ways to offer professional learning to staff. So I'm going to have her introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Kelsey Kralik. I am an instructional coach at CAM in the CAM School District. I primarily serve the elementary buildings. Last year I was a literacy coach, and so that's kind of how a lot of this work started. And then this year it's transitioned more into an instructional coach role overall. So I'm really excited to share with you some of the work that we've been doing at CAM and hopefully help you find ways that you can use it in your districts as well.
Thank you. So I think one of the things that we wanted to do is provide you with a real example of one way that a district is using some of the things that we can help districts do. And there's a lot of variety and flexibility in it, but it always seems so much more powerful when you can see it in a district in Iowa that's actually implementing. So before we get started, I have a little brainstorming activity. If you have your computer, can you go to this bit.ly link? And I want you in the far left corner, just for now, you don't have to do anything in the other columns. Create a list of any professional learning opportunities that you attended or delivered in the past 6 months. And you may have to kind of watch where people are typing so you're not typing over. Just brainstorm, and it doesn't have to be like super specific if it's a 6+1 traits or, you know, whatever, if it's an in-house professional development. Just create kind of a list and think back, I don't know, 6 months, 7 months to things that you have either attended or delivered or been part of the delivery in your district. I just want you to get those things kind of in your head as we move forward. And some of it may have been like a full year-long kind of a thing, or some of it may have been just a one-shot, here's what you need to know type of thing. So I think, and the variety is really flexible. Okay. You can keep adding if you think of more, but kind of step on to the next one. So in round 2, I want you to put an X next to any of those that someone missed, maybe due to illness or other duties. I know a lot of times there are coaches sometimes who have to step out. I have small children, so, you know, you get the call, right? The call. Some of you maybe don't know the call, but the call. Yeah. It took me a while. We just had our kindergartner get sick for the first time, my first, and I was like, I didn't have the school name in my contact list. So the number came up, and I, of course, didn't recognize it. And, you know, I don't always pick up those numbers I don't know. So then I get an email, like, 30 seconds later, ding, 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 and I'm like, oh, that was what that was. So now I've added the name, so at least I know when I'm getting the call. I know I'm getting the call. Any trainings that maybe need to be repeated because of changing staff or changing need of your student body, put an X in that column. So like maybe you've got something where, and this is kind of where Kelsey's comes in, but your data says you need something different for a subgroup of students, general education or special ed, so you got to get people trained up quickly. Or the last one is people want to review the information. Maybe it's something that, you know, I don't know if you've ever done this, but sat in a training and heard what's going on and paid attention, but maybe drifted for a minute, and then you're like 2 days later, you're like, oh, what was that? I wish I could go back and see that or hear that. Or my other favorite one is, I wrote it on a Post-it note somewhere, and now I can't find the Post-it note. I'm sure I kept that handout, all right, in that file by my desk that's plastic. No, I never do that. So, all right, so when you think about that, now you can kind of keep that in the back of your mind. And once you, as we go through the next part of it and talk about what we've done, to sort of be kind of just thinking and let that tickle in the back of your mind, because hopefully you'll be able to make some connections with what we're talking about. So, a little video to show, kind of highlighting what we did with CAM over the past, it's only been like 4 months. It
Started in May.
Yeah, so this is sort of an overview of the project we did with CAM.
This year at Camp North Elementary in Anita, Iowa, and Camp South Elementary in Messina, Iowa, professional learning looks a little different, and as a result, this year at Camp North Elementary in Anita, Iowa, and Camp South Elementary in Messina, Iowa, professional learning looks a little different, and as a result, students are benefiting. The state of Iowa has issued guidelines to help districts and schools really look at their intervention systems. As a result of this guidance, the leadership team at CAM, in conjunction with Green Hills 88,
Can you guys hear that, or is it too soft?
to increasing the fidelity of the literacy interventions they are implementing with students. This approach includes online modules that provide
Hold on.
Do you have the audio cable plugged in?
I do.
Okay. It should go through the light speed.
Yeah, we could unplug it and plug it back in again.
Maybe that will.
This year at Camp North Elementary in Anita, Iowa, and Camp South Elementary in Messina, Iowa, professional learning looks a little different, and as a result, students are benefiting. The state of Iowa has issued guidelines to help districts and schools really look at their intervention systems. As a result of this guidance, the literacy team at CAM, in conjunction with Green Hills 88, have developed a systems approach to increasing the fidelity of the literacy interventions that they are implementing with students. This approach includes online modules that provide the why, what, and how around the interventions, as well as providing educators with ongoing opportunities for collaboration, fidelity checks, and coaching. Throughout this process, teachers are continuously analyzing student data to inform their decisions regarding the literacy interventions that students are receiving.
So the state has issued a intervention guideline to look at schools' intervention systems. And CAM really dug in deep, wanted to make sure they had a good system that addressed all the areas. Within the flow chart, we look at student data and reflect on whether it's teacher fidelity, if we need to dig a little deeper with students. So through that process, we developed the need for some training for teachers and paraprofessionals.
As the literacy team looked at the current reality, they realized that they needed more individuals who could deliver the literacy intervention, and that they wanted those individuals to be on the same page.
This process really started by identifying some needs within our intervention system. We realized that we wanted students to have fidelity, and we wanted those interventions to be delivered in a high quality way. And in order to do that, that required training of our staff.
In addition, they have 2 elementary schools.
So as the screening comes in spring, or in the fall, winter, and spring, we find out that we have more needs than we have some of just teacher staff, so we need to fill in those roles of getting bodies to make sure we're reaching the needs of our students. So our paras play a major role in that because we just do not have enough teachers on staff to meet that need.
Because we have 2 elementaries, sometimes it's hard to always be exactly on the same pace because you don't get to work with the other title teacher every day, or you don't get to work with the other interventionist every day. So the conversation really started about identifying what were those fidelity pieces, and then from there, identifying how are we going to get this out to staff? What's the best way to present it?
Once the literacy team decided what they wanted the training to be about, they then looked into ways to deliver the training. They wanted something that was flexible.
We really wanted to try to provide training to them in a way that would work best for their needs. So that meant it may not be a traditional setting of having them come on after school days. So that's kind of how that module conversation began. And it was really a collaborative effort between the title teachers in our school as well as our AED literacy coach on what exactly was fidelity. What did that look like? What were the questions they might have as they begin to implement the interventions? What do they need to know to be successful?
Once the literacy team determined what the interventionists needed to know in order to be successful in delivering intervention, Kelsey began to develop the content into a user-friendly format that would resonate with the staff.
Yeah, so I wanted it to be more interactive. I didn't want it to just be reading a lot of slides. So I tried to put in opportunities for them to interact with the content. We used a lot of resources from H5P, which allowed me to make my content more 3D and come alive kind of in a way. Especially when it came to learning about the science of the brain. We used it for some interactive flip cards where we kind of test their knowledge on what they knew about interventions or what they knew about phonics. And so I tried to build that in as many opportunities as possible. I also thought it was very important for them to watch quality interventions, and so I went to each of our groups and I was able to film some quality interventions to give that modeling piece to them. So they could look at it and they could see, oh, I know for fidelity that I need to state my purpose. I know for fidelity I need to do this, I need to do that. And then they can watch a video that shows exactly what that looks like in real time with a real student. And so that was really powerful for those interventionists to give them a little bit more confidence on that's what it needs to look like, that's what it should be. So I tried to build that in as often as I could to, again, make that learning more powerful for them.
As the development of the modules was wrapping up, the literacy team developed a plan for rolling them out to staff.
We thought it was important to roll out the modules as a group to staff members to help support them in completing those modules.
In addition to rolling the modules out, the literacy team has also been working with individuals or collaborative groups to extend the learning beyond the modules.
Well, for example, our kindergarten team, which we call it, meets periodically, and we can look at how what we're providing in the intervention groups is working and how it maybe needs tweaked a little bit to be better for the kids. And so sitting down in that whole group is kind of nice to bounce ideas off of each other, and sometimes you'll get an idea from another person sitting at the table that works for them. Maybe you hadn't thought to try that, and so we can take that back and try it in your group that you're looking at.
The response to the modules has been extremely positive. In the past, the staff has had questions, and these modules provide them with important information not only about what they should be doing, but also the why they should be implementing with fidelity.
Well, I think the paras, the professionals, appreciated the offering to do the training, and I think when we asked them to take on that role, that's a lot of responsibility, and it's there's a lot of things that they wonder about and they feel like I wish I knew more about, and so I think they really appreciated that. I also think it helps them build some confidence when they're working with students, and just sets it up for more success.
As a result of the collaborative efforts of CAM educators, Green Hills AEA, and AE Learning Online, CAM staff has access to online modules that provide a common foundation to individuals who are delivering literacy interventions to students. The modules are part of a comprehensive plan to ensure that the students are getting the literacy supports they need to be successful.
And we thought it was important to differentiate the content in a variety of ways. So some teachers are going to be able to log in and complete the modules on their own without very much support and do just fine. Some wanted and need a little bit more guidance on how to do that, and so that's why we tried to present that rollout in a couple different ways. From there, then, it doesn't stop. It's an ongoing process of conversations with the interventionist, looking for fidelity, using fidelity tools to gauge that, and then a lot of collaborative coaching processes to help them refine certain areas that they need to work on to make the learning even more powerful for students. So this is a process that will be continued over and over again. We have 3 screening windows for our FAST data. So when it comes to January, we may have to completely shuffle our groups and change who's delivering what interventions, and so the process starts all over again. And so the modules make it so simple for us to get that foundation to everybody, so they feel confident whether they're doing a phonemic awareness, a phonics, or fluency intervention, and then that ongoing coaching, that ongoing fidelity support helps them to feel even more confident as they're delivering, which we know is going to increase outcomes for kids.
Well, that's the first time Kelsey's even seen that. Yeah. So I hope I did it justice. Yes. But really, I want to give you guys the opportunity to ask Kelsey, for Kelsey to share a few things, and also for you guys to ask some questions about what we heard. Remember, there's a lot of ways to do this, but I think this real-world, recent example of what we've done is really helpful. One thing I will ask just to kick it off is relicensure credit. Yes. We have that option available, and I don't know how many teachers and heroes we have taking it for that. But
I think I had probably 4 teachers.
Okay.
So
that's just something to kind of keep in mind as you think about this too. We're able to offer and structure these with a little extra effort for relicensure credit for both teachers and paraeducators and substitutes.
yes. So as I said in the video, really the way that this work started was we were really looking deep at our intervention system, and we realized that we had a lot of paraprofessionals. We had some librarians. We had a lot of different people instructing these interventions because we don't have enough teaching staff to be able to support the need that we have. So with that, we were trying to go in and do fidelity checks last year, and realized, like, well, it's not really fair for us to go in and do a fidelity check if we've never actually taught them how to do them correctly. So that is why we decided we need to first figure out what fidelity looked like, and then what other information they need to know to be successful. So then from that collaborative effort with the literacy team, we were able to put a list together of we want this, and this. And that's where Deborah came in, and she helped me to create these modules that included all those pieces that the team was looking for. And one of the things that we thought was really important was if we're going to ask paras to take on this big responsibility of providing interventions to kids every single day, we need to be able to give them some opportunities for some credit or for some relicensure opportunities so that they are, it's working towards something for them personally as well. And so that's where the relicensure option came in, and it's been working really well with teachers. So they log in, they take the class, and then I do follow-up conversations throughout the year where I go in and I watch for fidelity, and we have a lot of coaching conversations about what we're seeing, how they can improve. But overall, fidelity with all of our interventions after just this fall of introducing the modules has drastically increased. We're seeing them not just deliver them the way that the program intended, but we're seeing them actually apply some science of reading to the interventions because the modules are giving that background. We talk about what is phonemic awareness, what is phonics, why is this a crucial skill for these kids to master before they're ready for the next level of reading development. So by giving them that solid foundation and everybody gets that across the board, it's really helped our students to grow and our interventionists to become more confident in what they're doing as well.
And And I think if you think back to some of those things that we talked about when you were brainstorming, people missing, changing needs of students and staff, things like that, the modules have helped with that. And I specifically, especially since your groups change so frequently, based on your data, I think that's something.
Yes, because what happens is we're constantly monitoring that data. And one of our first pieces that we do when we are looking at our students making the gains we want is, okay, let's look at group size. Let's look at the time of the day of the instruction. Let's look at the programs that they're given. So because of that, we're constantly having to shuffle our groups and change it to be better for the kids so that they're getting the best quality instruction. With that, we may have to change which interventionists are giving which interventions. And so that can be really hard when you don't have a online platform like the modules to be able to share with all of them. So, okay, you started with a phonemic awareness. Now we need to do some shuffling and you might have to do a phonics intervention. Log on, watch the modules. You can learn the science behind phonics. You can learn the programs that we have for phonics instruction. And you can watch other interventionists deliver high quality interventions to help you feel set on day one of delivering that intervention.
Kelsey, in the past, prior to the modules, how did you guys deliver that kind of training to staff?
I will be honest, it was pretty non-existent. It was one of those things where paras were kind of just thrown in that position and there wasn't a lot of support. And I think that led to some frustration from paras because they felt like, okay, I'm doing this job every single day, but I don't know what I'm doing. And I'm not getting any feedback or guidance on what I need to do. So last year, we really realized that this was kind of an issue. And that's where we started to think about what can we do better for the paras, for the interventionists, and for our kids.
Well, and you have teachers taking it too to help them as that. I know I heard another district that was like, sometimes we pull our music teacher in to do some of our interventions because they just happen to be available at the time we need them. And so thinking broad spectrum about all staff who might be delivering it, not just the paras and things like that.
Yes, so this training was offered to all staff, whether they give interventions or not. And I actually had a lot of staff that came to it that don't deliver interventions that just wanted to know more about what we're doing. And they ended up, well, I can take this for credit? Yes, you can. And so they signed up and they're taking it for credit, which is awesome because now our whole staff has much more content knowledge on what we're doing with these interventions every day, and it makes the conversations going forward so much easier.
Questions from the group?
So you actually developed the modules from the ground up?
Yes, yes. So really what happened was, like I said, we sat together, the literacy team, and we decided what were the things we need to include. And that was kind of my template for making the modules, and then I pulled in as much research-based, strategies that I could find. I went back and I used some letters modules for some science behind reading and different things like that as sources to help us. But yeah, they were pretty much created from the ground up, I guess. And that was the best thing about the modules. Once I got in, and Deborah was awesome because if I ever had a question, I'd email her and she'd say, do this, do this. And so when I first started talking to her in May, I was really overwhelmed. I thought, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this. Like, this is a lot of content building. I have no idea what I want this to look like. And as the summer went on, and that's really when I worked on it the most, it became so simple. And it actually became really fun for me because it was like creative in a different way. And so, and once I got one module done, I was able to use that as kind of a template for my next modules, and it really just took off from there. So it was, the building process was a lot simpler than what I initially thought it would be.
You can use, one of the things with our system is you can use she built a lot of the content, but you also had the videos of, and we can, if we have time, go in and show those. She had some videos from I believe the company.
Yeah.
That were on YouTube, showing some of the different things. So we can embed some of the, so while some of the video, like you saw with the student, she recorded and did that was her work. But some of it we can also embed and take things that already exist, depending on the permissions and the copyright issues. If it's on YouTube, we can grab that stuff and put it right in.
Yeah.
So there are ways to sort of hedge. And that's where I kind of come in, and that's, because she did all of the heavy lifting as far as the content. My job is, so AA Learning comes in and says, here's how we can put this together. And I'm also great because I don't know what you're doing content-wise. So if I look at it and I'm like, I think there needs to be a little more explanation, or can we talk about this a little more? Those are the types of questions. And also things like, are you getting back to your learning goal? Or is it straying off and stuff? So
Yep.
our role is a little bit more into that area. We ask a lot of questions. We kind of, in the beginning, we try to scaffold our approach in the development. So in the beginning, I may do a lot more of the work. You just hand me the Google Doc with the information, and then we go through the editing process that first time. And then as your comfortability with the tools and process grow, we're happy to stay more in the forefront of build, or we're happy to let you go. Sometimes people don't want to hang out with me that much, and they're like, I just as soon go and do this on my own, and I totally get that. Other people are like, oh, please don't leave. So we're pretty flexible on that. So, other questions?
So you can create modules and keep them private to your district?
Yep.
And then if you want people to get credit, how do you go about doing it?
So what we do is we create a bundle of courses, and it can be all homegrown content, or it can be a combination of content we have on our system that you build and combine that with your own modules, or it could be all content on our system depending on what you need. And then basically we have an algorithm, a formula that we look at the module and what's in it. Like videos are like this was a 9-minute video, so if you were watching this in a video, it'd be a solid 9, and then usually we put some questions at the end, which adds a little more time. So we have to get to that 15 hours for real licensure credit. So we'll look at it through that lens. And we have already like 13 or 14 pre-built courses that you could just take off the shelf and have staff do. Their work is very integrated into their system and their whole PD program. So there's a lot more coaching and collaboration that goes on outside of just the modules. We do have districts who use our system who just develop a module and people can take it, and then there's an instructor who reads their final assignment, signs off, and that's it. And there isn't all of the other components. So it kind of depends on your need. We have a district that is doing a personalized learning experience where each module has a series of, there's some instruction about the questions, and then there's a bunch of questions that they answer, and then they submit that to their instructor at the local level, and the instructor gives them feedback, and then they move on to the next one. And the first series of questions are the ones around identifying a problem or an area of concern in your classroom. So they're kind of creating a learning goal for themselves, and then the second one is find 6 to 8 resources, and so that's where that coach comes in and helps them find them if they're having problems. And so by the end, some of you might look at it and it looks kind of like an ippy-dippy plan, but it's also a personalized learning plan that they can get credit for. So we have some districts who are kind of overlapping that usage, and some who are keeping them completely separate. And that's kind of a culture and climate issue at the district level, so whether they want to mix that. Because some people are like, well, we're going to combine it because it's 2 birds with 1 stone. Some people are like, no, we keep those totally separate. Learning is not part of the ippy-dippy process. So, but the questions are very similar to that. So that's just a lot of different ways to structure this kind of stuff. So, other questions? All right, I do have one more short little video that kind of overviews the mod. So we've seen an example. We also wanted you to just get like a visual for the development process and see if you have any questions about that.
When we think about building an online module, it's important to think in 4 phases. Phase 1 being the big idea. Phase 2, concept development. Phase 3, module development. And Phase 4, editing. Let's get into each of these different phases. In Phase 1, the big idea, the content experts are really deciding what the big idea of their module or modules will be about. We're also thinking about what the learning outcomes for each module will be. Once the content experts have decided on the big idea and the learning outcomes for the module or modules, they can start to think about organization. They want to be thinking about how they would like to chunk the content that they want to put in their modules and the order in which they would like to organize it. In Phase 2, the focus switches to...
I'm going to stop right there because I have to add something there. I tend to think about that Phase 1 as sort of an outline. I'm an outline thinker. So I start with my title of my outline, and then I create my big chunks, and then my numbers and my letters under that become sort of the pages in the module. Some people are more like, they like the tree diagram with the big umbrella, the box, that kind of graphic organizer. So there's a lot of ways to think about that, but that's sort of where the content experts, which would be the people developing the module and who are closest to the people who are going to receive it, put that plan together. AE Learning Online is happy to come in and sort of navigate that with you. So if you come in and are like, hey, I'd like a module on subsidizing. Anybody a math person? Subsidizing. Subsidizing. Sorry, I was close. So if I want a module on that, that might be your name of it. And then what are the things under that? And then you build that outline out. And then oftentimes your sections become the Roman numerals, and those letters and numbers under that section become the titles of your pages that you put in. And this is an iterative process. So what you decide one day may not be where it ends, but it's where you kind of begin.
Content development. In this phase, the content experts are spending time developing the information that they want in the modules. They are fleshing out the big ideas and the learning outcomes and goals with content. There are many ways to do this development work. However, one of the easiest is on a Google Drive document. The Google Drive document is where content experts can start putting resources, videos, websites, links to documents, reflection questions, short quizzes, and much, much more. In this phase of the development, it is also important that content experts are putting in text that explains how the resources, videos, websites, and documents connect back to the big idea of our learning now, and how it might help enhance the practice of the individuals who are viewing the module.
We'll come in at this point, and what we do at this point a lot of times is we ask a lot of questions. So you put in a video that you want that shows something, but your viewer doesn't know why you put that video there, how it connects to the learning goal. They don't necessarily know what they should be watching for even. So we'll come in, and you can either, the developer can write that themselves, or I'll come in and be like, hey, you know, let's add some introductory text that says, in this video, you're going to be watching this. Think about this question, and framing it up so that your viewer is having that. That's the difference too between just putting all the videos on a website or a Google document that they clip through and connecting it back to that learning goal. And so we work with you during this phase to sort of help do that stuff and ask those types of development questions. I'll even go in and, God forbid, try to write text for you if I feel like that's helpful. And I always tell people, hey, you can erase all of that, but I'm going to put a few things in that maybe, so I'll watch the video and try to figure out what the key idea is and think. Another way to think about this is whenever you're putting a page together or a module, you tell them what they're going to learn, you let them engage in that learning, and then you ask them to reflect on what. So you can think about that whole cloth all the way down to individual page. Did I tell them on the page what they're going to do? Did they do it? And then did I ask them to think of it? And not every page is like that, but that's one of the tricks I use in the development. And I help my content people kind of think through.
As we move from phase 2 content development to phase 3 module development, the content experts will hand the information on the Google document to the instructional designer. At this point, the instructional designer will begin to take what is on the Google document and begin to develop modules on the community. The instructional designer will look carefully at what content experts have provided and look at the ways to represent this in the module.
And again, we talked a little bit, this is a scaffolded process. So in the beginning, I think Kelsey gave me the Google Doc that she had written on and gave me access to it. And I kind of went in and built the first module. The brain-based activity, I think you had sort of each part of the brain listed as far as here's the part of the brain and here's what it does. And I was the one that first round who kind of was like, oh, I've got a great idea. Instead of just having them read that on the page, I'm going to build it in this other tool and embed it so that people can use it like that. And then after that, she saw it and was like, well, how do you do more of that? And she really took the lead then on all of the other development that we did on those types of tools. And again, depending on a person's comfortability, we can continue to build those, or you can take the lead on that and sort of go through that process. So that's sort of what we do there. And then by the time they got to the second module, so in this example, this is for kind of the newbie, like I haven't developed a module, and really there is a handing over of content to the instructional designer and building it up. By the second and third module, she didn't give me the content, she just built it, and when she had questions, she came to me. So just sort of, again, that's same with the tools, it sort of depends on a person's comfortableness with
takes to build a module and or complete each of these phases. Once all the edits are complete, is editing. In this, the content experts and the instructional designer work together to go over the content in the module. There are edits related to content, organization, and copy editing. Depending on a group's comfort level, the instructional designer can facilitate making those changes or teach content experts how to do basic editing in the training system. Once all the edits are complete, the module is ready for embedding by a larger group and or possibly ready to go live on a public calendar. The time it takes to build a module and or complete each of these phases may vary greatly from group to group. It will depend on the number of learning outcomes, the amount of content, and the number of people working together to build the module. As you begin to build your module or modules, it's important to remember that you have an instructional designer who is there to support you through each phase of the module development. AE Learning Online instructional designers look forward to working with you on future modules.
So that's really the process, and there's lots of variations on that, but I think it gives you kind of a big view of here's the stages in the development. And it's, we do modules all different sizes. We have some that are like 5-10 pages long. We have some that are HR related. So we have districts who embed a document with their acceptable use policy, and that's just part of the bundle that their teachers go through. It has their acceptable use policy, it has their worker compensation, it has all of that kind of information. And those, all they really do is give me the Google documents and I embed them on the page. But then at the end you get, as an admin, a record of who's completed those modules. So you can see that. So we have really simple ones that are more HR focused like that, to obviously the full-blown PD that's for relicensure credit. So, and we're happy to assist with any of those. Questions about the development process from this angle, or in general over everything you've heard today?
Can you show us what it actually looks like?
So just so you know, when we can link to a module, so in your email you can say click here to get to this module. They click on it, it will take them to the login page for the system, so they'll have to put in their username and password, which is the same as their single sign-on now for the AEAs. And then it'll take them to a registration page that says click here to register for camps. If it's a free module, where they're not taking it for relicensure, then they click a green button and it takes them in. If it is for credit, then they'll click a button and it'll ask them for their credit card information, and then they'll get taken into the module. So, and then after they've registered, once they're in it, it'll either appear under their currently enrolled trainings, and then when they're done, it'll appear under their training history, and then they can hit, there's a button next to it that says review. So when we talk about, oh, I don't remember how to exactly do this intervention, I need to see the video, they can hit that review button and go back and see that module and all the content in it at any time. So their training history travels with them. So then so I've got this one, and you can see I've completed it. So it's under my completed trainings. I hit review, and I'm going to let Kelsey direct.
Okay. So we came up with several different modules. So our first one was an overview. We felt like support staff needed to know why we're even giving those interventions, and so it really covered MTSS, and it talked a lot about the science of reading and why we are teaching students the skills that we are. So, and like we said, there was areas where we embedded videos. So if you click on this link, it'll go to a video on MTSS in Iowa, so they can watch that. And then there's reflection questions that they will complete. And then this is the content that Deborah built with the areas of the brain. So when we're thinking about reading development, we know that there's 4 parts of our brain that are being activated to be fluent readers. And so basically what this talked about was, okay, so letter pattern, letter recognition. That's why we teach phonics. That's where we start at that area. Sound symbol recognition, we start there too, because that's the phonemic awareness piece. Students have to have that strong before they're ready for the letter pattern. And so really it gave them an overview of why we're teaching the specific skills that we are and what's happening in those students' brains when they are reading. And why maybe they might be stuck at a certain areas because that part of the brain needs to be strengthened with intervention support. We also put in our intervention bank. We have several materials for each of our areas of intervention. And so we highlight that, and then we go into depth on the strategies, so why the interventions were designed the way they were. And then it also has videos on that. So I'm going to go back to, let's see here.
Are you just going to find a different module?
Yeah, I was going to
Just where it says CAM at the bottom, if you hit that arrow on the very bottom of the browser, like the search.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go. If you hit those arrows, you should be able to find. There you go.
Okay. So this was our phonics one. So again, we review what are each of the stages of reading development. It's the big 5 of literacy. And at what ages does that learning typically take place. And then we put in some more information about, so like this is about the language skill progressions. So what is the order of skills that should be taught? So when they're reading their intervention materials, they'll know, oh, okay, well this makes sense that we're at the syllable level right now because it's at the very beginning of their reading development. When we go into phonics, okay, we're starting that one-on-one correspondence between sound and print. So it kind of gives them a little bit of a background knowledge so that when they're doing the materials, they can see this is why. It's not just, here's materials, go do it. So, one of the things when we think about fidelity that's important is making sure that we are following the script that's in the materials. And that there's a difference between explicit and non-explicit instruction. So students that are struggling readers need explicit instruction in those skills. And so this was an activity where we discussed what the difference was between each of the types of instruction. And then there was a flip card where they had to then test their knowledge. So teacher says, today we study a new way to spell words that have a long vowel sound. The pattern is called the long vowel silent E pattern. So is that explicit or is that non-explicit? That's an example of explicit. And then it kind of goes through and tests what they know. We try to build this in often in the slides and the modules to help them to kind of another check to make sure they're understanding what we are talking about. Let's see here.
The best part is by the end of this, I don't even know some of the stuff that's in the back end. She really was able to take over the control of the build. And I went in maybe to do a little editing, but really, this has been. So the system is fairly user-friendly. There are some quirks, but like I said, I'm pretty accessible. So if you send a question, like I always tell people, don't spend more than 5 minutes trying to do anything on the system. If you've been there 5 minutes struggling, you email me, and as soon as I can either email you an answer or do a video tutorial or give you a quick call on Zoom, let's get that done. That's the other thing I will say from a development standpoint. If you aren't in Central Iowa, we do so much of our work virtually. Kelsey's about an hour and 15 from here.
Yeah.
So we would just, she'd send it, hey, I need to know how to do this, and if I could, I'd just be like, hey, you got 5 minutes to Zoom, let me know, and we would just answer it that way. So as the process, so we try to be as accessible as we can.
So like that screen right there, you could have created that, or you did create that in Google Docs?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Or Google Slides?
Or we pull in materials, like this is videos, so I'll just link in those videos. Once I learned how to link them in myself, it was actually really simple to just put them straight in there. So yeah. So I started with, I actually think I started with Google Slides, and I sent that to Deborah that had basically, okay, this is this page. And then she put it in there, and then we talked a lot about it. You know, she'd say, maybe you need to add in a little bit more content information here, or can we find a better picture that's more, that shows, you know, more detail about what you're talking about here. And then I would do that, and then towards the end, I was just putting them straight into the modules and just building them from there.
So if you edit them, and you edit them in Google Drive or in your slides, do they edit automatically in here? No, you have to bring them in again?
Yeah. So like Deborah, if I said, I need this edited here, if I didn't feel comfortable just doing it straight in there, she could do that then and build that. But then, as I said, once I started going, it was super easy to just edit straight in here.
We provide a lot of support around video editing, so crazy as it may sound, my voiceover, like I built all those videos we just watched myself with the help of a videographer who helped capture some of the footage, and Jody who did some of the footage from the live event. So like if you have things, like if you want to videotape something for training, then that needs to be part of the planning conversation, and we get permission slips, and we can support that kind of video. Either you can get people to do it for you, and we'll take that footage and help you with the editing, or we can support that and try to get somebody local to help you do that, capture that. So depending on what you need there, we do. As far as graphic design, I also dabble in graphic design a little bit. We do ask, like if you've got specific images, a lot of times we'll talk about copyright issues related to that. So do you own the rights to that? And so we try to use a lot of iClipArt, or I have a couple of freebie sites that I like to use for graphics that are great, things like that. So we kind of talked through that. I know the umbrella one we had a conversation about because we weren't sure who owned that graphic. So had we come to the conclusion that that was proprietary, we probably would have worked with somebody in-house to kind of create our own version of that. But at that point we looked out and it was fine to use, so we didn't have any problems with that. But so depending on what you're doing, and all the state stuff that you get, all the MTSS diagrams, graphics, anything that we can take and use because it's part of the DE and the rollout of the state. The only thing I would say where we have maybe some rub is if you've got a proprietary like curriculum that you're using, and they've got stuff that we need to kind of think through. And sometimes it's just a matter of replacing the image they use with a similar one we have on their system, or maybe emailing them and asking them if we can. I know we ran into, wasn't there some past sites that they could access that were password protected?
Yes.
So because the modules can be hidden to the district, so only the people who are already have access to it via, like you send them an email with the passwords.
Yes.
We were able to put the passwords and the links to the sites straight up in the modules because we're not sharing it with the entire state. We're just sharing it with the people who would already have access, and it's hidden from the catalog that way. So again, as we go through this, I'll ask those kinds of questions. Oh, where'd you get this graphic? Do we need to get permission? Is it, open source type stuff like that? So that's sort of, again, that instructional designer role. We're going to do our best not to leave you hanging on that.
So after you do all this work and you've created this thing, are you going to, with that password thing aside, are you going to open it up for other people to be able to use it too?
So beyond CAM, is that what you're?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So the content within these modules are very CAM specific because we went through it. There's pieces where we know for our students, this part of the curriculum it really doesn't work. And so we've had to modify, and so we teach our interventionists that way. So in that way, it's very CAM specific. However, it's one of those things where you can easily use the same type of format. I think there's times when you've cloned and